How's it going out there, YouTube? Currently working in my study, so renovation, that light doesn't work anymore. And the only light I have is sitting there on my desk. So, low light this time. Next time it'll be fixed. But anyway, regardless, that's what's been going on in my life. Just housework and other work and life and whatnot. But regardless, let's get down to what I want to talk about today. So, this is completely random. This is just going to be a rant. But I'd like to have a little discussion about the main reasons why the mainstream media has lost majority of its credibility, if not all, by this point in time. Aside from the fact that they've been caught in lies previous to this, not necessarily lies, but caught doing this shady shit previous to things that have happened within the past decade or so. We tended to, as societies, particularly those of us that live in the Western society, we didn't really have any other way of getting news other than your mainstream news organizations such as CNN and MSNBC, NBC, etc., etc. The list goes on. But aside from the fact that we have alt media, there's another thing that has become akin to this. A lot of people are not necessarily waking up. It was always kind of this way, but people are just seeing it more blatantly obviously now when the media makes something that generally shouldn't be outrageous and they make it outrageous. Like recently, Melania Trump was down in going to Texas for the immigration debacle that's happening down there, and she was wearing a jacket that simply said, "I don't care, do you?" And they're like, "Oh, this is some kind of special, just a conspiracy theory, fucking tinfoil hat wearing shit." Now, if the roles were reversed, and I'm not a big fan of either party, as I've made blatantly clear, if the roles were reversed and a right-wing news organization came out and said this about a left-wing first lady, the mainstream media would be up in arms with torches and pitchforks to hang them on the crucible, or on the crucifix rather, that is liberalism. But no, instead, it's generally they say it, or they tweet it, or they write an article and they go back in and they change it just enough so it doesn't quite sound as crazy as it did before, or they just simply say, "Oh well, it's an opinion," or that's not necessarily how we feel as a news organization. Which in reality, they should be well aware of what their writers and editors are doing, and not necessarily allowing some of the stupid shit to come out that does come out. But I digress. It still happens. Like in the situation of the immigrant crisis, the immigrant debacle that we have a whole group of people that are simply saying, "What about the children?" And I've stated this before a multitude of times, both on Twitter and I do believe in videos as well, that a lot of terrible things have been done in history based off of that phrasing. Like, what about the children? You can't mold your world around children. I'm not saying the children aren't important. Obviously, the children equal the future of your nation. Therefore, the children should be at least thought of in certain circumstances. However, in certain circumstances, they also shouldn't be given a pedestal and a voice to speak their opinion on something they quite clearly do not know what the hell they're talking about. But it happens anyway. Why? Because, as we've known, media feeds off of clicks, and I really hate to say this, but violence sells. Violence sells, death sells, blood sells, drama sells. Humans are attracted to all of those things for some unknown evolutionary reason. We find them blatantly entertaining and refuse, when something comes on TV about a mass murderer, we refuse to peel our eyes away from it for even a moment, because we want to know what happened next, why he did it, for what reason, how many were dead, how many were wounded. The numbers all matter to us, even though they shouldn't. You get where I'm going with that one. But the reality of the situation is that humans, in general, are attracted to those things. And when we have a situation like the Parkland shooting, the reason why the media pushed so hard to have the kids that were involved in it pushed to the forefront of the media is because it's easy to make the argument that, well, you've never been in a school shooting, therefore you don't know where I'm coming from. and a lot of people don't know how to deal with that, and they just, all right, fair enough. I'm not aware of your situation, therefore I don't have anything to say on this. Not necessarily. You don't have to experience something like that to have an opinion about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is separate from that. It's separate in the sense that what that person did is a terrible act. However, the Second Amendment protects a person's right to bear arms. Those two situations are entirely different. But I'm going off topic. And that's basically what these are for anyway, but I don't know. I'm losing track of thought here. Really, the situation is I can't stand it when the media will act particularly one way when one person is office and act particularly different way when another person is office, just because one happens to have a D in front of his name and one happens to have an R in front of his fucking name. And going back to the immigrant debacle, what I was talking about before. Now, with the whole immigrant thing, if you really want my 2 cents on it, the children shouldn't be separated from their parents. They should all be deported. It's the law. That's the way the law works. And certain libertarians and those of the Libertarian Party that fall more on the anarchist side would probably disagree with me, but that's a topic for another time. The fact of the matter is, they crossed here illegally. Yeah, the kid is technically a minor, still technically not able to commit a crime. However, they're still not a U.S. citizen. And allowing them to stay here and sending their parents off is not the way to do business. I do realize that there are, in certain circumstances, these kids were getting separated from their family members because it was believed, well, I say family members, separated from the adults that they were with because it was believed, whether or not that be fact, I don't know, but it was believed that these individuals were trying to traffic these kids into the United States, which, those of you who are unaware, child trafficking does happen, and it's something that anybody should be able to be like, yeah, nope, that's not a good thing. But no, we want to worry about the surface, the issue that we'd rather see on the surface. And what the mainstream media did was they came out with this picture that was Obama era, I might add, and was all in a hissy fit about it. Now, the only thing that I have to ask the fucking smug liberals that live out on the West Coast, the left coast, particularly those in Hollywood, that have a holier-than-thou attitude, look down their noses at everybody that isn't living in Los Angeles. These kinds of people probably think that anybody that doesn't live in Los Angeles, New York City, or another major city is an absolute bumbling idiot. They have the whole, white trash mentality behind them, which some of them do, fair enough, but not everybody that lives in a rural area is like that, you unbelievably dense simpleton. Anyway, tangent, once again, sorry. Anyway, these people have a holier-than-thou mentality, and what they say, what they said when happened with Obama, nothing. Their lips were sealed. A murmur or two might have came up, but it was not anywhere near the amount of the storm and magnitude that it was with Trump. And don't get me wrong, I'm well aware of the fact that Trump really isn't that much of a Republican. He's more of a Democrat than people like to think, but the lines have been pushed so far one direction that most people fall to the other side of it anyway. But I digress. But the fact of the matter is, do I think that Obama was right for doing it? No. Do I think Trump is all right for doing it? No. However, you also have to keep in mind that these people aren't the sole proprietors of legislation in this country. Now, you got to keep in mind there are some people that are bitching and moaning about this on both the left and the right that have the ability to write legislation, create bills, and push bills forward to the president that would help nullify this issue. No, they would rather virtue signal for votes. You see, it's become less about actually doing things and more about manipulating the people to how you see fit and who can do it the best. This is the reason why the mainstream media, a part of the reason why the mainstream media has lost as much ground as they have in the realm of credibility. It's because what they have become is they're no longer journalists. They're just a propaganda machine for whoever happens to own them, whether it be a right-wing institution or a left-wing institution, or a right-wing owner or a left-wing owner. The fact of the matter is when your average Joe looks at it and they see that there's quite a clear bias between how the media reacted when Obama did it and how the media reacted when Trump did it. when that bias becomes clear, they no longer trust the journalists because the journalists aren't being fair, which I've already covered this before, but bias always exists. Everybody is going to be a bias. Everyone's going to have a bias. It's irrelevant. It's going to happen. There are people that are on the right that are going to believe right-wing media before they'll believe left-wing media, and there are people that are on the left that'll believe left-wing media before they believe right-wing media. Does that mean that those people are inherently dumb or ignorant? No, they're just easily manipulated and are generally don't either have the time or they don't have the urge to fact check. These people are usually very easily distinguishable in the way that they talk and the way that they take action. But that aside, let's step back to the media as a whole. So with the media, when in doubt, when they're wrong, change it, run away from it, don't talk about it ever again. You know how it goes. But just because the media is more or less burning down in the ashes like a flaming fucking dumpster fire doesn't mean that there's not going to be something there to replace it in the future. So if anybody ever starts trying to argue with you that the concept of journalism is starting to die, just remember that there are people that stand behind the other side of a camera that do a better job at journalism than most people that went to journalist school, which is simultaneously invigorating and depressing at the same time, if that's even remotely possible. But I digress, and that'll just about do it for this video. And for those of you that are concerned, I will have another one out far sooner than this one did. This one was just completely, entirely non-scripted and freeform. So the next one's going to be a response video. I'm not going to spoil on what, though. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, and I'll see you cunts in the next one.